we're halfway through the season now. It's time to rank your top 5 contenders. Starting at 5 and going up to 1. I know BJ hates doing things like this, but now Scott's here. There's no ducking and hiding, B. So, Scott, I'll let you go first. From 5 to 1. 1 being the strongest contender right now. Give us your list, and then we'll all do our list, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Then we'll get into it. I'm just going to give you the names of the teams first.
Yeah, in order.
In order. At number 5, your favorite, Mo, the Philadelphia 76ers. So let me. Number 4, the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. Number 3, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ooh.
Yeah. Number 2, and I wouldn't have said this probably a few weeks ago, but I'm saying it now, the LA Clippers.
Oh! Hot take.
Hot take, exactly. And number 1.
Wait, this is crazy because okay.
And number 1, and I see you have the images behind you, your Boston Celtics.
Hey,
all right, Mo, that's my 5.
Okay. Now, that's crazy. We're gonna get into that in a sec. BJ, I need to hear your list.
Yours.
All right. At 5, Sixers. 4, Nuggets. 3, Suns.
Woo.
2, Bucks. And number 1, Celtics.
So you both have the Celtics as favorites right now.
Mo probably don't even have him in the top 5. Mo don't even
Mo, we got the pressure on you, Mo.
Here's my list. Number 5, I got the Clippers. I got the Clippers.
Really?
Because I was looking at this and, I was just like, they've just got Kawhi Leonard. When it comes to the playoffs, if he's healthy, he's arguably the best player in basketball when it comes to the playoffs. Because every time we see him have a healthy playoff run, there's no denying that. And then you've got James Harden, who's found this amazing chemistry with the rest of the squad right now. And then Paul George, amazing on both sides of the floor. So I've got the Clippers at 5. I've got the Timberwolves at 4. I've got the Celtics at 3. I've got the Sixers at 2. And I've got the Denver Nuggets at number 1.
Mo's trolling right now. Mo's just trolling.
Yeah,
you know what?
Exactly.
That's not even a real list.
That's
not even a real list.
Mo, that does not go with how you've been talking, at least when I'm on the
exactly.
show.
This is the Mo hater-proof agenda list. They can never call me a hater anymore.
Exactly.
So, Scott, first of all, you don't have the Nuggets. Oh, you have the Nuggets.
I have the Nuggets at 4th.
At 4.
Yeah, I have them 4th. And the only reason I have them at 4 right now, and BJ talked about it a little bit earlier, not sold on the bench yet.
Yeah. Because BJ, you got them at 4th as well.
Yeah, they're missing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. Can't state their importance enough. And, the pressure to repeat, is, that's a heavy mantle to wear too for each player, just because you're getting everybody's best shot. So that's why I have them down at 4 right now. I always have great respect for the defending champions, but I've got to see more from that bench before I move them up the ladder.
Okay. Well, I've got the Nuggets at number 1. Reason being, I look at it like this. Who in the Western Conference is stopping them? I don't see a single team in the Western Conference that's stopping that man, Nikola Jokic. He's too big. He's too smart. He's just too good with it. And when you talk about the bench depth, okay, in the playoffs, you're going to go 8 deep, maybe even 7 deep in the finals. I'm not too worried about missing Jeff Green and Bruce Brown, given that, I'm expecting by the time we get to the playoffs, these guys on the bench to have improved through building this season, right? You got Christian Brown, who was fantastic for them last season. He had a couple fantastic games in the NBA Finals. You got Reggie Jackson, who you can rely on to come in as another ball handler off the bench. And then I really like this kid, Peyton Watson. I think that he has the potential to surprise a lot of people. And after this year's playoffs, they're all going to be, instead of being like, who's he? They're going to be like, oh, this guy's a really good bench player.
One thing I would say though, Mo, about teams going to 8 deep. Yeah, historically, and BJ can talk to this a lot. When you get to playoffs, coaches tend to shrink the bench a little bit, or at least shrink the rotation night and night. So, you go from maybe 9.5 in regular season to 8.5 to 8 in the postseason. However, I'm gonna give you an example, though, because really it's still extended past those numbers. Last year, Los Angeles Lakers on their ascent to the conference finals, Darvin Ham went and plucked Lonnie Walker in a particular playoff game, and he might have been their 10th, 11th man. You've got to be able to utilize, that's when we're talking about the depth of bench. You can go deeper. Even though he wasn't in the rotation, the coach felt he had a certain skill set that could help them win that particular game, and he did. I watched that for years. I watched that for years in Detroit too, especially when when Larry Brown was there. We would go to, depending on matchups, Eldon Campbell might go for weeks without playing. And then when we got to the playoffs, depending on the matchups, he might not have played the first series. But we were playing a big body in the series too. Guess what? He was going to utilize him. So the ability to have available bodies that could help you in a series, and the last example I'll use is one where my good friend here was playing years ago with the Chicago Bulls. I'll bring it back up. Cliff Livingston was not playing at all, but he had the energy, the toughness that they needed to combat a Detroit Pistons team, and he was pivotal in helping them win. So you need that depth.
That's an amazing point.
Right.
That's an amazing point. So let me now ask you why you both have the Boston Celtics number one, because last week you said the Nuggets and the Celtics are in the same boat. This week, talking about teams who need to make a trade, BJ mentioned the Celtics and the Nuggets, both because of their depth. So why do you have the Celtics at number one and the Nuggets at number four? Is there someone you see on the bench of the Celtics that you think can be put in those similar positions?
What I've always said about the Celtics early on in the year, and they've this past week have really confirmed it. I like their starting five the best in the league. I think they've been the best five in the league. They played that way, had a big win last night, going down to Miami, and it really handled a very good Miami team. It was huge. Al Horford, we know his experience, so that's your sixth man, or like you say, your sixth starter. So he's going to be reliable when playoff time comes for that team. What I am saying, and not that I don't still have a little concern, but guys like Peyton Pritchard are going to come in and compete, and I can see him making threes the way they play in a game or two during a playoff series to help them win. I could see a Sam Hauser, because now they're getting more games under their belt, more confidence under their belt. Not all 7 games in the series, but all you need him is 1 or 2 games to come in and make 3 or 4. So that's why I'm landing on the Celtics as we sit here today. Now, can that change going into the playoffs? Yeah, if we see, other benches rise and ascend. Or
here's the thing for me. As much as BJ thinks I'm trolling, Porzingis, great when Porzingis plays. Porzingis right now is out with a twisted ankle. Is he going to hold up until the playoffs? And then when we get to the playoffs, does he know what he's doing late in the playoffs? Has he been on those stages before? Because the last thing I heard about him in the playoffs was him saying that he just went and stood in the corner when he was playing for Dallas because he didn't like what they were doing. So Tatum, Brown, Horford, White, cool. Drew Holiday. But Porzingis is the question mark for me. As great as he's been in the regular season.
There's no question. And we said that early in the year. He's the one guy of that starting group that doesn't have the same playoff resume that the other 4 starters do. He hasn't gone as deep in the playoffs. He hasn't been in many battles, so he's not as battle tested. What I am seeing in him now is a growing confidence, and he's very comfortable in the role that he is playing for that team. So you're getting the very best of Kristaps Porzingis now. The pressure of having to carry the load is not there for him. You know, when you mentioned Dallas, he had a little more pressure being the second option to Luka. Now, depending on the night, he's third, fourth, or fifth, depending on how the game is going.
If he gets hot, he can be first or second.
Exactly. So that's why right now I'm holding them up there. Yeah, that question still is going to have to be answered once we get into that playoff action. But I think the young man is going to want to. He's hearing those whispers. I think he's going to want to attack that and try to prove people that, hey, no, I'm not a weak link here. When they brought me in here, this is going to help us win a title. So yeah, for me, as it relates to Kristaps, it all gets down to his health.
Okay. Well, you know, talking about that depth as well with the Nuggets, with the Celtics, BJ, talk to me. You got the Suns third on your list. Why?
You know, it's interesting. I was listening to both of you guys, and both of you guys had the Clippers.
Yes.
Both of you guys had the Clippers. And I think most of us will probably say the Clippers did a 180 after the James Harden trade. I mean, things did look good. And suddenly now when you look at the Clippers and you start looking at their roster, you're going, that's going to be a tough matchup for someone, especially if they're all healthy. Okay, that's it. And that's even before they got James Harden, they were really good. They were already a bad matchup. Now with James Harden, and I got to give Coach Ty Lue credit, he figured out how to integrate that roster. Russell goes to the bench. I thought that was a great display of leadership by him, and they figured it out. And they don't even have a lot of depth up front. But you know, Plumlee now is back, so they've kind of figured it out. Give those veterans credit. So if they're healthy, I agree with you guys, but that's a big if. You know, I'm living out here in LA. We've been waiting now for some years, and it hasn't happened. But when our man Kawhi is healthy, there's nothing to be said here.
Exactly.
So I will say that. Now,
but Phoenix.
The reason I had Phoenix was because, you know, I think in my heart, I'm a KD fan. I love KD. You know, I've watched him now, but last week he had a couple 40-point games. And I'm just saying, you know what? I just think with his experience, his resume, now you put in Devin Booker and these guys, even though it's an incomplete roster. When I say incomplete,
do you think they win a 7-game series against the Denver Nuggets?
I think they have a shot. I think they have a shot with if they went into the rosters as today, because both teams have weaknesses in their roster. Okay.
Because I have the three teams, the Celtics, the Nuggets, and the Suns. I think the Suns have the worst bench of those three.
Yeah, and you guys are right. It's just one of those things where KD is capable for me. You know, when you have a player like a KD is without question, he is an elite offensive player. And as great of a player as Jokic is, KD is capable of playing in that game. There aren't many players that can elevate their game and play at that level. Well, KD is one of them. Okay? And if KD X's out Jokic, let's say they both have 40. Now you're talking about Jamal Murray and Devin Booker. Well, that's a pretty good one. And now you're saying Bradley Beal and Aaron Gordon. Let's figure out how this plays out. But KD, without question, in my mind, can play at that level in any given series. Okay, I don't care who he plays against. And a lot of times, as you guys know, when you go into a playoff series, when you have the best player in the series, you got a pretty good chance of winning that series. And KD will be able to play in any series. Now it's just a matter of the matchups. So it was just a wild card, you know. Okay. You know, just a hunch.
Let me ask you guys about this. You both have the Bucks ahead of the Sixers. BJ, you got the Sixers fifth and the Bucks second. Scott, you've got the Sixers fifth and the Bucks third. I've got the Sixers at second, and I don't even have the Bucks on my list. Reason being, this is quite late in the day to be making a coaching move like this. And the biggest reason for me is, you know, earlier in the show, we spoke about them needing an upgrade on the perimeter defensively. I just don't think they've got the pieces necessary to go out and acquire the player that we all want them to go out and acquire without getting outbid by another team. So I'm looking at this like I just don't think that they have enough time and enough assets to get the right roster in order for Doc Rivers to guide this team to winning an NBA championship. Why do you guys have such a high opinion of the Bucks right now?
Well, Mo, first of all, the Bucks were in second place in the Eastern Conference, or were they a game ahead of Philadelphia prior to the coaching change. And we saw the defensive woes. Secondly, and most importantly, championship DNA matters to me. Giannis, been a champion. Chris Middleton, been a champion. Brooke Lopez, been a champion. So those, Bobby Portis, off the bench, champion. So you've got that championship DNA, and then you go out and get a coach who has won an NBA championship before. So that's why I have them ahead right now of Philadelphia. It's not a slight to Philadelphia. It's just a matter of fact.
Well, what I will say about
not too long ago, and again, you talking about having one of the best players in the world. Again, I'll take Giannis and Antetokounmpo in any series.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Look,
but for me,
being the best player.
The point of them being second right now, I want to see if they can maintain that, because remaining games, they've got the hardest schedule in terms of strength of opponents remaining upcoming, meaning they've had one of the easiest schedules so far. And similarly, the Phoenix Suns have the second hardest schedule remaining. So that's going to be interesting how that shakes out. BJ, if they can't address this point of attack defense, do you still have hope for them in the playoffs? Or are you anticipating them making a move?
Absolutely, I do. For sure. Listen, I don't expect a miracle for Doc Rivers or any coach to come in midway during the season and they're going to turn this around. I don't expect that. That's an unfair, unrealistic expectation. However, what I do expect is for them from this point moving forward to begin the process of saying, we have a team. No team is perfect, but they're going to have to make the commitment to playing a certain brand of basketball that is championship caliber basketball. They have the second best record in the Eastern Conference right now. And I don't know if Scott agrees with this or not, but they haven't played championship caliber basketball all year.
Nope.
Oh, I agree with that. No, I don't disagree with that statement.
And when I'm saying that is to say there's a lot of room for improvement with this group.
Yes.
As good as their record indicates, you can't win a championship playing that brand of basketball. Now, that I agree with.
Yep.
We can talk about whether the coach should have been responsible for that or the players or whomever. We can debate about that. However, it's one thing that I can say here. That's not championship caliber basketball, and they weren't going to win the championship playing the way they're currently playing. Now, I don't know what was needed because I'm not in that locker room. I'm not in there around their team. But I do know if you just look at their record, you say, well, they must be doing something right. They're 31-10 or whatever their record is. But you and I and all of us here know, no, that's not going to get it done. So I think Doc will begin that process with them. Unfortunately, someone had to lose their job to get through to this group. But I think this group is going to have to make a change.
Yep.
In how they're going to play, how they're going to address, but more importantly, those veterans, especially at the front, right? Meaning those guards who are the front of attack are going to have to figure something out if they're going to give themselves a chance to be a champion this year, because clearly all of their chips are into the middle of the table. Now, the organization has said that. So I think this group now is going to have to go out there and figure out how to play at that level. And it's not an easy thing, especially for someone like a Damian Lillard. We can't forget this. Damian Lillard this is a new expectation for Damian Lillard as well. Like Absolutely. No one has said that. Individually, he's been an all-star. Individually, he's one of the top 75 players and da-da-da-da-da-da. His accolades go on and on. However, this is the first time Damian Lillard's been playing where he knows he's going to the playoffs. And the expectations here is not to get to the playoffs. is to win the whole thing. So this is brand new for him too, and I think that's something we need to take into account.
BJ,
ahead,
you
Scott.
mentioned, yeah, right. You mentioned something about the players, and it made me think. Look, whenever there's a coaching change, especially like this in the middle of the season, and I don't know how the decision ultimately came about. Was it solely the front office? Was it input from players? Whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter now because the focus now though turns to the players because there is a perception out there that the players either weren't playing up to their capability, weren't buying into what was being sold. Whatever the issue was, we're here now with a new coach. And BJ knows this now. Each player's got to look in that mirror and say, oh, I've got to up my game and up my ante because there's something that we have not been doing or I haven't been doing as an individual player. And each player is going to say that. And so you'll have that as I'm going to call it a rallying cry, if you will. But that's something that I think you're going to get from the players now. You're going to get an increased focus and ability at that end because they know that was a shortcoming. They know a guy was fired because of it. And then Doc, to BJ's point, can utilize that, channel that in the right way, hopefully for this team, to a deep run in the playoffs, ultimately to the finals and the ultimate goal of winning the championship.
Well, the one team that I had that you guys didn't have is currently second place in the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I want to know why you guys don't see them as serious contenders when it comes to the playoffs.
We want to know, Mo, why you have them the second.
Serious.
Yeah, Mo, go ahead.
Go ahead. Explain them, Mo, and we'll.
Some would say I have them there because of everything I've said about Rudy Gobert over the years. And if they did win, it would look very bad for me. But others would say that I've picked them there because I like their depth. I think that they've got, when you look at the players coming off their bench, amongst all the teams you mentioned, they've got one of the stronger benches. They've got Naz Reid, they've got Carl Anderson, they've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they've got guys that can come off the bench, get it done. And then they've got Anthony Edwards, who has that star factor. He plays both ends of the court. He can lock guys up. On the other end of the court, if he takes another leap when we get to the playoffs and really cements himself as a superstar in this league, I like what they do. They got the best defense in the NBA, and I can't go against the best defense in the NBA.
Look, they have played terrific basketball to this point, and they've earned the right to be in first place right now. That has not been given to them. I'm with you on Anthony Edwards. Love his game. Think he's one of the top 10 players in the game today. But the only reason I don't have them there right now is because I have not seen them in playoff basketball. I mean, last year they were,
Well, some of the Nuggets said that they were the hardest opponents that they had last season, even though it was a first-round exit for them.
Yeah, right. But I want to see them get in, lock horns, and get past the first round. And so that's the only reason why I didn't have them there right now, just because there's not a ton of playoff experience there. I've watched them some games where they have really not shown championship caliber play in terms of closing out games. I just watched them the other day against the Charlotte Hornets. We're not a very good basketball team right now. At home, they were in total control of the game. And to lose a game like that, look, losses happen to inferior teams during the course of a regular season, but not often in that matter. So that raised a little concern for me. So I'm not off of the Timberwolves. I like the team, but as you're asking us to assess this right now.
I agree with you with what you said about that game, but I like that as a wake-up call. As a wake-up call for them.
Yeah, well, we're going to see if they use that as a wake-up call. I agree with you totally.